Hello there, this is Craig Hain. My students call me Dr. Dell, and this is a video to talk about a book that I've just written recently that I want to tell you about. It's called How and Why Public School Math is Destroying the USA. Now, I expect this is going to be somewhat controversial, particularly among the math educated community, and I want to tell you about it in an overview and why you will probably want to read this book. I have a PhD in mathematics that I got many, many years ago from Indiana University. I have been teaching math for many decades at all levels. And so this is all based on my experience. I am in my 80s now, my ninth decade, and I'm really enjoying life. And it's time that I tell people this. And in order to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to share the screen with you. And first of all, you can go to my website, craighain.com, and find out just who I am. You find out all about me there. My vita's there, and my story and so on. And I am the founder and the CEO of a company called Triad Math Inc. And this company has developed what we call a 21st century approach to math. And it's quite different than anything that you've seen out there yet. And of course, that's part of the basis of why I'm explaining why our public school math is failing our students. Now, you go to Amazon and buy this book, and technology is just phenomenal today. Here's this book. It's 100 and, I don't know, 60 some pages long. And you can buy from Amazon in paperback form for $4.78. And that's one copy, and it's shipped to you. And if you're a Prime member, there's no shipping. You only have your maybe a little state income tax. Now, the Amazon gets this $478. They get all of it because I wanted to, this is the minimum price that Amazon will let me price it out. And I'm using them as a printer. You can also get a Kindle version of it, the zero if you've got the unlimited Kindle, and it's only 99 cents, which is the minimum they would allow me to charge for that. And you'll also find out how I can actually give people free PDF copies of it as well. Now, what I want to do is I want to tell you what's in this book so you'll know why it's important and why you might want to read it. And what I've done, I've gone to the look inside and I've gone to the back of the book. This is the bottom of the inside to what's on the back of the book because you can read it better. First of all, I say public school math is destroying the USA. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, it's a disgrace and we're all victims. And by that, I mean, the students are victims, obviously. The math teachers are victims, the ones teaching it in the public schools, and indeed the schools themselves are victims. So I'm not blaming the public schools, it's the public school math that's destroying things. And that in turn is having a detrimental effect on the American public. Destroy may be a bit of a hyperbole, but it's certainly harming things. Now, why could this be? Well, what I call the standard math curriculum, which is what was developed all through the 20th century and is still in the modern programs, is full of inappropriate topics for many students. And it's full of obsolete manual tools for virtually all students. I don't think you're going to dig a dish today with a pick and shovel, are you? Well, that's what they do mathematically speaking. And what this does is these two things together make math more difficult than it needs to be. And it's causing a lot of our students to fail. Even when they pass their math courses, they're not learning math, the math they need to be learning. Now, as I mentioned, who I am, I have a PhD in math. I've been teaching for decades. I'm going to peel back the many layers of what this public school math is all about. And I'm going to do it in layman terms. It's not a math book. There's no equations and graphs in here. This is a book about math education, and it's written for anybody to understand. If you're a parent or anybody interested in math education, and that's, you're going to really understand it. And you're going to find out why this standard math curriculum is so horrible. And of course, that's bad news. Now there's good news. And the good news is, thanks to modern technologies, which I explain in this book, you can do things today in the 21st century you couldn't do in the 20th century that make math education much, much, much better. So the bottom line is, if you want the students that you know in your life, students in general, to succeed, then this book is what I would consider to be a must read. Now, I'm on the look inside part at Amazon, so you can go follow this at Amazon. There's a table of contents, and I'll come back to that in a moment because and tell you why. And first of all, then there's a foreword. Now, I was inspired by three famous leaders and then a very good friend of mine so far altogether as to why to write this book. Now, Nassim Taleb, who's the author of the great book Anti-Fragile, had a quote in that I loved. He said, "If you see fraud and you do not say fraud, then you are a fraud." And I thought about that. In fact, Nassim Taleb was really the inspiration for me to write this book, because I feel like I have to reveal the truth to you, painful though it may be, to whomever it might be, and it will be. Now, George Santayana, who's been a much older philosopher, once made a statement: a man is morally free when he judges the world and judges other men with uncompromising sincerity. And I tell you right now, I'm not writing this book to make any money on this book. I'm writing to educate you. If there was a magic wand and I could get this book in everybody's hands that wanted it for free, I would. In fact, it's almost true, because you can go get a free PDF copy of it, or you can go get probably a free Kindle version. Edmund Burke, another great, brilliant man from the past, said, "Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could only do a little, or he could only do little." Well, I don't know how much this is going to do. I don't know how much I'm going to do. I'm hoping that I'll be able to get with a lot of podcasters and people that want to debate this and learn all about it, and we can do that together. So that's the reason I did this. Now, when you go a little further down in the book, I have something I call In a Nutshell. And what I do here in 2 pages, I really explain the argument, but I do it, of course, with an overview of why public school math is destroying how wonderful the USA could be. And that's what I mean by destroying the USA. It's destroying how wonderful we could be. We could be absolutely wonderful if we were teaching the right math for the 21st century. And then I also, so that's what I have in a nutshell. Then I also have an overview of some advice for readers so that you can read this in the most efficient possible way. And in particular, I tell you which chapters you really want to focus on. Now, for example, if we were going to do a podcast and we were going to talk about this, what we would probably talk about, we'd talk a little bit about part 1, which is how many students are doing with our current public school math education. What is it doing to them? And everybody's had an experience with this, and there's a lot of common experience. You learn about that. Part 2 is all about my background and how this all came about. And we may or may not, you want to talk a little bit about that. But in part 4, then what I do is in 4 chapters, I identify this problem that the public school math is having. Chapter 19 is the classroom's unsolvable problem for both the teacher and the student. It has to do with pedagogy and what I call spike pedagogy. This is a very, very must-read chapter for anybody interested in math education, because it really is one of the keys to delivering a great math education. And it can be done today in the 21st century. Then I talk about theoretical math and the student psychology and all about how the mathematicians influenced the 20th century curriculum in a negative way for most students. Talk a lot about that. Then I talk in chapter 21 about the tools today that are available. That's an incredible thing. If you don't read anything else, read chapter 21. Chapter 21 is an eye-opening thing, because today there are 21st century tools, were not available in the 20th century, that literally revolutionize how you do advanced math, STEM math, advanced pre-calculus courses, trigonometry, complex numbers, analytical geometry, and then calculus, differential equation. Absolutely amazing. And finally, I talk about what I call the horrible bell curve. This is what math educators have been doing for decades now. I fought it many decades ago, and I even tell my story how it got me fired from a math education department after I had my PhD and was considered by the students the best professor on campus, but the math educators didn't like it. You know, that's just an extra story. Now, okay, all this is what's wrong with public school math. What's the solution? Well, there's a 21st century solution. And part 5 goes into that in 9 chapters in depth and in detail, so you understand it. And this, of course, if we were doing any kind of a debate or a program, a podcast, whatever it might be, these are the things you'd want to talk about. You'd want to talk about what's wrong with public school math and what is the solution today that solves it. And by the way, public school math today can be transformed into a wonderful math. But the problem is, and I explained this in the book, it's going to be a tremendous shift in math education, and it's going to be very expensive, and cost a lot of people a lot of money because, for example, today you can get a math textbook from a wonderful printer called Amazon. You can get a good math textbook for most courses for like $5, 10 at the most. Not $300, not $200. And on top of that, the right content. And you can deliver tutorial videos, which is what I do in my program, from Amazon Web Services in a way that was really inconceivable in the 20th century. It's just absolutely amazing. So what you can do with pedagogy and content, those two things together, revolutionize it. And I can discuss that with anybody that wants to in depth. I welcome anybody that reads this book, wants to ask questions, give me a critique of it. I'm fine with that. I'll debate it with anyone. I'll be glad to go on a podcast and discuss it with anyone and really go into it. And let's get into the facts of the matter. Let's talk about the way things really are. Because quite frankly, if we do what we should do in our educational math education system, it's going to vastly improve the quality of life in the United States for virtually everyone. And I explain why that is in the book. That's part of the good news part. So this is Craig Hainer, Dr. Dell. That's what I wanted to tell you about. I hope that you get the book and read it. And if you know somebody that wants to discuss it with me, get a hold of me. I'd love to do a podcast with you, or I'd love to discuss it with you in a forum, however you might want to do it. Maybe if you want to write an article about it for some publication, we can work together on that too. So Craig Hain, Dr. Dell, thanks so much for watching, and join the effort now to vastly improve math education for the benefit of everyone in the United States. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.